My name is, oh, no, howdy. My name is Raymond, and I have COVID. And today we're going to be talking about But I'm a Cheerleader, which debuted in 1999, directed by Jamie Babbit and written by Brian Peterson. And today, with me to talk about this, I have Chris, Steve, me, Dino, JP, and welcome to Oye Dimelo Cinema Club.
Woo!
um, so as we always do, I'll just say why I chose it. This is one of those films that I've had on my to-do list. That's kind of what I try to do whenever it's my turn. Is like, what film has been on my to-do list forever, that I'm overdue on, and shouldn't be on there. And this has been one of those. I feel like it gets mentioned a ton. Still holds up, and having watched it, I feel like I get it. It feels so distinctly queer and radical, in some ways still today. In other ways, I feel like I do have to think in context, like this was, almost 30 years ago, 25 years ago. and I feel like a lot of what it does in that time is wild. So, enough of me. What are y'all's first impressions of But I'm a Cheerleader?
I'll go. First time watching it, I thought maybe not to point out. I thought you would have had already seen this movie before, and you wanted all of us to enjoy it. So I'm excited to hear more about what you thought about it. This movie reminded me a lot of like the movie Saved. I think it's the one that came out with Macaulay Culkin and a bunch of other people. Clearly, this one came
Yes,
out before
Saved.
that, huh?
Saved is like so good. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. But I enjoyed this movie. Again, kind of I echo what you were saying of just like it feels how relevant it still is. I also Yeah, but I had just kind of seen the poster recently on it just because I didn't realize that Natasha is it Lyonne or the one who is the Russian doll was
Yeah.
in this and was in American Pie and was in like all these movies that I watched, and not until recently did I realize that it was the same actress
Oh, wow.
in all of those things. Yeah, and I love her voice, but it's like raspy and all that. It's amazing. That's just me on the side right there. But yeah, I was super impressed by the movie and how well it has kept up, and even at this moment seems to be way more relevant than I would think a movie that's 30 year or something would be. So, and freaking RuPaul, it's like I wish I could see more of his early work, or that he would have had more chance to do stuff. Anyway, but that's my first impression. It's a hoot and a holla and rough around the edges. So, but it's very enjoyable.
I ended up watching it tonight, right before this, and to be honest, I think that the actual places that are like this are even more campy than the movie setting. I think that while they push the envelope, I would imagine there is some even more ridiculous things that are done. And I think that they did a great job of doing like the different simulations and things like that, because that is probably actually based on how people are treated and are pushed through this kind of an experience. So for me, I thought it was really good. Same thing with the Natasha Lyonne. I thought it was interesting that her character is usually, more aggressive, and in this she was the token innocent person. So I thought it was cool for her to be in a role, because in all those other movies, like we talked about American Pie, I believe, I don't know if she was in Can't Hardly Wait, but in those types of movies, she's always like a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more less innocent. She usually plays a less innocent role. So Yeah, I definitely thought for me it was a great movie. I thought it was really good. And I definitely can't wait to talk about some of the things that I noticed as I was watching. Every once in a while, I would go, "Oh, wait," like things like the colors and some of the things that I saw in the background. This is the first time I saw it, but as I was seeing different scenes, I was noticing different things. So I can't wait to delve into some of
that. Since everyone keeps mentioning Natasha Lyonne, on my little IMDb rabbit hole, one of the trivia things said that they were originally considering Melanie Linsky, who's currently on Yellow Jackets, to play the main character, but that they had cast Clea DuVall to play, I forget her character's name, but the love interest in the film.
Yeah.
Graham.
Say again?
Graham.
Thank you. And I guess Clea DuVall and Natasha Lyonne were really great friends before shooting started. And when Clea DuVall and Natasha were just like in the car driving around, Natasha saw the script in the car and asked more about the project. And then somehow, some way, she ended up getting cast as the main character. But the other thing that I also wanted to mention, which I thought was, which is I think we're all hitting on, is we have this very distinct like image and connotation. I mean, everyone does, I feel, that's aware of Natasha Lyonne, of this kind of like hard badass character.
Yeah.
And so it's so weird that this is the way she entered the industry in this role and character, because it seems so antithetical to like where she is now and what kinds of roles she lands.
Yeah, I think her facial expressions are the character that steals the movie in certain scenes. Like, I think her facial expressions, even, was this her first film? That's what you said?
Close to it, I think.
Okay, because, I mean, her facial, the way she used her face throughout the entire movie, I thought was really well done, at different times, and kind of grew as the movie went on. She was less innocent as the movie went on, and she was learning more and more. And I think her facial expressions definitely changed significantly as that happened, even when she was interacting with her parents in the different scenes where they come and see her. So I thought that was a big part of it too.
I'll go ahead and give my first impressions. It was cool to see a movie that was very colorful, and it gave me like Beetlejuice vibes. Especially in the beginning and stuff. It took me a while, honestly, to know that was RuPaul, because I'm just so used to just watch him in like drag that I didn't know that was him for a while. I was like, oh, that's RuPaul. The kissing scenes in the beginning were hilarious. So she was like not into it at all. And this was definitely like the moment I started playing this movie, because again, I didn't see a trailer or anything. It was not the movie I was expecting. So I was very surprised by that. That's my first impressions.
Yeah, no, same. Definitely did not think this was going to be about conversion therapy. I thought it was going to be some weird Bring It On from the 90s. And after you told us this was the film you were going to pick, I remember I told the guys, like, oh, I haven't seen a cheerleader movie since, like, Debbie Does Dallas, which we're never going to watch here, which is fine. I'm a fan of the 70s, but, we already did that. We already committed a whole week to that, so we don't need to do it again. Anyways, I don't know. I guess for me, like, I think campy movies that we've seen, oddly enough, are either hit and miss for me, and this one, like, just narrowly goes on the line of miss. But I did enjoy the movie. But I think the only reason why I enjoyed it was, unfortunately, Kayla's not with us here tonight. But she was, I don't know if she was faded or in a mood or whatever, but she enjoyed the hell out of this fucking movie. Like, she kept saying, like, how did I not know this existed? How did I not know that this was a thing? She absolutely loved it. Again, with RuPaul, as soon as Ru showed up, like, she knew instantly that that was him, and she's like, oh my god, he's handsome. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's Ru. And it's crazy because I've seen RuPaul like act in other projects, but I feel I don't know if this is a dig or not. I feel like this is the most where, like, yeah, I believe your character. Like, you're definitely this guy who is in complete denial of who they are, but like also very like stern and like, I'm gonna straighten you boys out. Da, 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 da. But yeah, overall, like, I think this film, for me as just a lone viewer, probably I don't think so. But as a group, I feel like this movie is definitely like a party movie. You have to watch this with multiple people to fully enjoy it. It's not at all a bad movie, despite its stupid IMDb rating or whatever. Because like I'll admit I did enjoy it, but it definitely does not like when the movies that we've seen that have gotten 2 stars, even though I'm kind of harsh on them, like there's no way that deserved the 2 stars or something. So yeah, and plus, like I said earlier, it's camp. Camp is a very acquired taste, and sometimes I'm just not in the mood for that. So overall, it's a fun time movie, but I don't know if I would revisit it. But I think I'll have to rewatch it again and again because I know Kayla's gonna end up rewatching this film. We almost did a few days ago, but unfortunately, yeah, she wasn't able to come here. But it's chill. I'll say it, if I were to rate it, probably a C, but she definitely whatever grade is beyond an A, that's how Kayla rates.
Nice.
Well, one of the things that I picked up is this wasn't the film y'all expected going into it, and kind of same. I'm curious to hear why you guys what you guys were expecting and how it was different from that. I'll say for me, I think I understand where you guys are coming from. Where I going into it kind of did imagine that it would be a little bit more earnest and have this like kind of what we think as like a 90s, or what I think of as a 90s like LGBTQ plus film, where like these two people in a terrible life like end up finding each other, and then they fall in love, and then at the end they can't be together. But there's something about this that starts off very heightened, and it's just like kind of I think again like very like badass, rebellious, punk. It's like it's not that at all, and we're both gonna be like telling this what feels like my long question setup right now is kind of a twofer, because it's also like it is heightened, and at times I was like, oh, this is campy, but and we've talked about camp before in previous episodes, and that word is so esoteric, maybe. I don't know what the right word is. But it's so like subjective, like everything else. So what I found interesting was like everything is heightened, super stylized, but the emotional storyline is still very grounded, and like the romance between the two main characters is still very like felt, and that part felt very earnest. So yeah, so very much to the sidebar. What I am asking is, one, expectations versus reality coming into it, and two, is this camp?
So the only expectations the only thing that threw me off, I just didn't know what the movie was about, right? So I thought, and I couldn't place the time period right off the back because it just felt like a grainy film. But as soon as they sat her, like as soon as she started kind of seeing like the boobs of the cheerleaders, I was like, oh, I think I see what happens. And then as soon as they sat her down, I was just like, oh, okay, this is this movie. And nothing really surprised me after that, because I was like, the camp was so high up, and maybe because I had seen something like Saved and other movies that have come since then that have kind of touched on the same things and stuff like that. I just kind of saw this as like the the original one of those films, kind of like a bare bone of what has become those kind of films. So yeah, I did, me going into it, I didn't think it was going to be about like uh, pray the gay away camp type of thing, but I forgot now your second part of the question, but I think I answered it.
That was good enough.
That's good enough. I'm out.
Should have just ended with "straight is great," right? Well, that was the T-shirt. I think for me the campiness came from the music. I think the music made me think of like and again, you're right, campy is a very subjective word. I definitely felt like it was kind of like a Tim Burton film, the sound and the colors and like the way people were dressed. I know that's going to sound kind of crazy, but when you said Beetlejuice, I was actually thinking like Edward Scissorhands. So same kind of idea, like that it was over the top in that way. And I think that's why I associate it with campy in some way, because that has like an element of campiness to it in a weird Tim Burton way, obviously a different way, but I think color and music and all can add to that. And I really felt like the music from the beginning, I was like, is this going to continue throughout the whole movie, or is this like an opening way? And they didn't overuse it, but they would come back to it at times in the movie, just to keep you, in the same themes and all. So for me, that was a big part of it too.
Yeah, there's we're mentioning like Edward Scissorhands. What was the other one y'all mentioned?
He said Beetlejuice. Steve said
Beetlejuice. And they all have that like, I think it's like 1950s Stepford Wives kind of vibe of like, this is the perfect American life and the American family, which I think it hits on very quickly just by embodying that kind of aesthetic.
Well, almost like Dollhouse also, right? Like if you think of like inside and it has the pillars, everything just was one tone or two tone, right? Either the Pepto Bismol pink or the baby blue or whatever. So
another thing that I found interesting too, because I did kind of go in blind into this, was that usually first off, I didn't expect the film to go beyond the storyline centering on a lesbian character, but it has a cast of queer characters. And usually when a film does that and it's like more than 10 years old, there's usually like a lot of like language that's evolved since then. And I feel like the film does like such a great job of not falling into a lot of pit holes that other films in that same time period may have fallen into. Like it still stands pretty well. And sometimes the lack of language or like the evolution of of words we have for the queer community, like the absence of using certain words still holds up. So I thought that was pretty remarkable and interesting. The next thing I wanted to talk about was who y'all's favorite like characters were or favorite scenes in the film.
I'm gonna hold on. Let me answer the first
two
questions, and then I'll probably give my favorite characters in the movie. I thought this movie, like I said earlier, like was gonna be like a Bring It On, and if not a Bring It On, then like a Drop Dead Gorgeous. So, because like, oh my god, because I don't know why I felt so slow into it. Like until the actual intervention started, I was like, oh, this movie is gonna focus on like, the whole gay conversion thing, because I thought it was gonna be like a misunderstanding or like a misdirect. Like no, like I'm not gay. Kind of like in the way In and Out with who's in that movie?
Oh, Kevin Kline. It's a great movie.
Kind of like that movie.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, he's completely in denial of his sexuality, and he's outed by people who think that he's gay. Kind of like that film. I thought it was gonna be more like that. So I was surprised that the majority of the film took place in the conversion camp. I feel like once it's there, like you get a feel of what the movie's about. Because I think the movie kind of started off at a 10 when it shouldn't have. Especially with that making out thing. I was like, that is so ridiculous. So I was expecting the rest of the movie to be that like ridiculous, like silly, like not taking itself too seriously, which it didn't. Like there was moments of, like lightheartedness and whatnot, but the ridiculousness only came in every once in a while. It wasn't as consistent. But yeah, that's what I thought the movie was going to be, and then what it ended up turning out to be. My favorite character, I'm so when I saw Dante's Bosco's name, I think he is technically the first one credited in this movie. I was almost shocked that his screen time was so little in the beginning. It's like, what? He leaves? They gave him the first credit. You don't do Rufio that way. You don't do that. You don't do that to my guy. What's up, Dante? And then he comes back in the movie. Spoiler alert, he comes back. Third act, helps out, does the whole rescuing thing. Like, I really liked Dante Bosco's character. I feel like the kids in general are good, but he's definitely one of the standout one. I think that's another reason why this movie, like, at times gave me the wrong vibe, because Kayla kept on saying, like, you're such a goddamn prude. You're so fucking straight. Because it's like, it's kids. Like, it's, people in high, the actors are portraying teenagers and whatnot. And I was like, they shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be going out to clubs. It's not what kids do. I was a God-fearing boy in my youth, and that it's turned me into an agnostic, God-fearing man. So
the conversion camp worked.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, I kept on commenting about, the film, and then, Kayla would be like, that's not the point, JP. You're on the wrong side of history. Yeah, definitely for me it was Dante.
I was very happy seeing Rufio, because I was thinking, like, Rufio. I didn't see the name at the beginning. I mean, definitely, Natasha, just like, kind of, I was like, she's playing it so soft the whole way around, but I think she really helped sell the movie, right? Because just of, like, her innocence in it and stuff like that. Rufio is pretty good, but then you got RuPaul, and just, like, every time, like, he would try to be all macho and try to, like him. Probably my favorite thing is RuPaul grabbing his balls to show, like, machismo, and, like, him trying to arrange his, he, trying to, like, teach the boys how to be men, of, like, grab your balls. That's probably my favorite, one of my favorite bits. And also just I even wrote the line, now I'm an ex-gay, Megan. I forget now, because it's been over a week that I watched it, but that was my favorite line. I'm not quite sure who said it. Now I'm an ex-gay, Megan. It was great. So yeah, so I would say RuPaul, man, trying to be fixing the car, like, every single scenario they had RuPaul, like, trying to be lumberjack and the mechanic. It was great.
I thought all the adults were my favorite character, because it really showed, like, it was very clear that as long as you said what they wanted you to say, they quickly got over whatever it was, and so you had to do what they said, but also as long as you said it, they accepted it pretty quickly. If you tried to say, like, I'm not really sure, then it was like, no, that's not okay. And I also think the way they shaped everything. Do you remember the scene where, like, the kids get out in the Charlie's Angels, like, style, coming up from the ground, and there's like a cutout of, like, a soldier with, like, a gun sticking down, and the guy's like, and the whole time I was like, the adults that created this place You know, like let's start thinking about that. Like the backgrounds, like that's what I was saying. A lot of the backgrounds, the furniture was shaped like a vulva. Like it was funny.
Yeah.
I noticed that as I was watching throughout the movie, and it's like says a lot about the people that can't get in touch with their own feelings, or were never allowed to. So for me, that was a big part of the movie as well. And so the adults to me were really important characters, like you said, with RuPaul and Mary Brown, I think her name was.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I want to jump into a little bit of, just because you said the adults, but let's hear what Steve of your favorite character.
It was changing throughout the movie, but one that to me stole it, and more because I did research afterwards, and I'm like, oh, what? He's not gay, like for real? Was like Andre.
Andre?
Yeah, he's the one that
With the son
gets kicked out, and he's like, "I'm mad at you."
Oh yeah.
He was the only one that got kicked out at the end, like wasn't going to graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you guys are like all fake, pretending.
I'm not gonna get compliments from a gay guy who just proved himself straight.
Yeah. That was hilarious. And then I found out, that dude's not gay at all. Like, I was like, what? That was very convincing.
What I did find pretty also like bold was that all these actors were in this movie. Like in 1999, it still feels very early to play like a queer character or in a film that's very gay, and not be concerned about what the prospects of your career are going to look like for this choice. I thought that was pretty cool. And then since we're talking about like favorite actors, like also a lot of the people, especially the woman in the film, seems so iconic now, like so like 90s and early 2000s. Like a lot of these folks were in a ton of teen films or horror films or slasher films. So it was really awesome, like seeing Clea DuVall in here. The woman who plays Mary Brown, Melanie Linsky, like all these folks that when I see them on the screen, it makes me think of like all these other films that I watched as I was growing up. So I thought that was really neat. I think my favorite was Clea DuVall.
Even of the talking about the adults and how they set it up, it reminded me a lot because clearly, what's her name? The one that runs the home,
Mary Brown.
Yeah, like her son, right? From what we see from the whatever is gay, right? Like that's at least that's what they're showing.
Yeah,
and I think that goes to what. Not only with things that have to do with queer and all that, but other situations that people might be different. Usually the parents are the ones that go crazy towards the other side, right? To try and hide it and try to fix it. So that's definitely a thing that I caught on like pretty quickly, right? There's so many in history. There's so many times where we've seen that, not just for like a gay, queer, LGBTQ, other, whether it be some sort of persecution or whatever, any sort of cleansing that can occur and to change, right? So that's religions, that sexuality, that's just different beliefs themselves. So I was like, oh, this has another level even, right? But it's not, it's just there on the side. And I thought that's what this movie also did pretty well, of just like, it seems, like you got the pink and the blue and it can be over the top, but it's got some message in it,
For sure, yeah.
People that hate themselves, it's usually, or hate a certain group of people, it's because they have some sort of connection with it.
That they're trying to distance themselves from, clearly. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, this is a movie where they used in a somewhat comedic, right? It can't be comedic movie. They used the F word That one scene when they were sitting around, I mean, that's, you know, they went right at that kid and that aggressive father. I don't know that would play well, you know, in a movie that's supposed to be campy nowadays in the same way. Like, he said it very aggressively at that kid.
I think because, you know why I think why it had a lot of power to it and why I think it could still work is because they weren't throwing it around, right? So that's where it has that one moment or whatever.
It was like
I think,
straight bigotry.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's why it works, right? Because it's not loosely being thrown around as like a joke or as a whatever. Whereas like, I think it would still have the same weight if you have a campy movie now, and if for like one character or one scene that kind of language comes out or that kind of thing, I think it can still work.
You think? Yeah, I think they would probably discuss it before. I think there would be a discussion of whether or not to use that. That guy. I don't know who that is, but he's definitely a character actor, right? That dad. I feel like I've seen him in a ton of things.
Yeah.
Like
I think so too. Now I want to go and rewatch Saved just to see. Like the language was definitely, that was way more like indie and all that, and I remember language being way more adult, I guess, right? This one they kept it more teen friendly.
Saved very like cutthroat, no filter.
It's more in your face. Right? I have the DVD. I just haven't seen it since, you know, I guess the DVD came out. But yeah, now that since you pointed that out about the use of the words and stuff like that, I'm like, I wonder if Saved held back on words as well, or if they were also just going, you know, at it.
Well, I think what feel like Dino was saying, because they saved it and it and Chris was saying like it's an intentionally bigoted moment. I feel like in how well the film intentionally makes sure that carries through to the viewers. I feel they do that with like everything in this film, and I think that's why, like, watching it however many years later, I go, wow, like it feels like all of that like good intentions on behalf of the team that like wrote it, directed, produced it, still carries through. It like you can watch, like, let's say, bad example because I'm not going to throw out a movie, but like let's say it was all gay men who made this film, and there was portrayal of maybe a lesbian character or a bisexual character or this, that, and the other. You can sometimes see the cracks of the foundation when it's like, I can tell that only a gay man worked on this film. Whereas like this team really feels like they just like poured a lot of kind of intention, making sure there weren't any cracks in this film, because it feels that way so many years later. And I'd be curious, like rewatching Saved, I feel like that same intention is there, but there probably is a lot more intense words used in the film because they don't shy away from making the evil characters be like evil. But yeah,
that one definitely was more religious
like
back.
critical.
Yeah. And I mean, when I moved to the U.S., I moved to Alabama, and so I mean, I was in a small school in Alabama, theater department, where a lot of my friends, you know, were gay, and they had to deal with Alabama and the pray the gay away type of actual places that some of them were either threatened to be sent to, or, you know, this and that, and other, like, their friends who were girls who were in love with a gay guy and wanting the gay guy to just become, you know, like recognize that he's actually straight, that he's not really gay, and just has to pray. So watching Saved and watching this movie, I'm like, yeah, I've been around people that are really want to believe that you can just flip a switch or teach someone to be a certain way. So that's why I enjoy these movies, just to see, like, try to get into that psychoses of the people that are trying to push someone into doing something else.
Isn't this movie like where Chick-fil-A got the idea?
I think so.
First, I didn't understand, and I just cut you. Well, before we finish talking about actors, the one thing I was going to mention about RuPaul was when he first, in the first couple scenes, I was like, yeah, like RuPaul put like his whole self into this role, and I was very surprised because now I feel like RuPaul in drag is so much RuPaul out of drag that I could not see him play this part again. But the next thing I wanted to ask was like, what were there any parts or aspects of the film that just weren't vibing with you for one reason or another? Anything that you think doesn't kind of flow in the same way films are today?
Okay, so
Sorry. Can I jump? I thought of something. We were talking about characters that might be seen differently. The only character that I was like, ooh, and that didn't maybe fit was the with the mohawk and the mustache. But then I can't remember if it was a he or a she or which one. Because I was like, oh, is that a trans character in this movie? But then they mention whether or not they were an actual boy or girl, right?
I don't remember exactly how they play it in the film, but the way I remember it is that character, because which I think they handle well, but I could be wrong in how I remember it, because that happens often on these discussions. I just completely read the film wrong. But what the film does for me is they're just talking about gender expression, and they're trying to categorize each of these characters, man or woman, as the as a male or female.
Right.
And then this character, who I believe is a trans character, is saying, no, I'm not. I'm not pretending to be a man. This is who I am.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but because the gay conversion therapy camp situation doesn't have language for that, they're like confused on how to handle him. Which I think like this is what I was trying to articulate earlier. Like the lack of language feels right because the character gets to speak up for himself. But that's how I read it, and maybe I'm giving more kudos to the film than I should be.
I thought
that's probably your writer's mind that sees things a certain way, right? Yeah, you're like, in my mind, this is what on the page. This I was rewriting. But yeah, that was the one character that I was like, I was really trying to figure out. I was like, is this, because I totally understand, like something that's like stereotyped or is written by male gay and written by lesbians. It's so I know that's more and more becoming an issue, right? That is another complete conversation itself.
I thought that character was a lady or a girl, and they just the way that they looked, like that's why people assumed that they were a lesbian. Because even the joke that RuPaul's like, would you guys like unbelievable? You guys can't believe that, right? It's like, no, that's just the way that they look, how they present themselves,
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I was gonna joke that I wasn't vibing with the film as soon as the credits started rolling. But for me, the only moment that I was like, well, that was a few when they go to the gay bar because it's like they're teenagers, they shouldn't be drinking or whatever because I'm a prude. But the one that like over the edge for me, I got a weird I don't like stuff that has to do with age. So when the son ends up being the replacement partner for Grandma, I was like, no, he's an adult and she's a kid. That's weird. Like, no.
Well, I think that even to me pushed the story of it even more, or just what situations are, right? Like the idea of like you just need a man, or like just have an older person, like will just throw anyone on you just because. And yeah, someone that's 10 years, 15 years older or whatever.
Literally throw them, like they simulated those scenes. Like, how about those scenes? Those were some of the most, interesting scenes in the movie.
Boy, but like I'll admit, as weirded out as I was for that, like that ended up being a very funny scene. It's like should I do foreplay? It's like, no, you go in there and finish like a man.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
it was like unload and pull out or something like that.
Yeah,
it was very.
Yeah, that was definitely weird.
It hit all the right spots, though. I thought. I mean, the movie itself is pretty simple, overall. But I was pretty impressed at just the message and that going through. So.
One other thing that I think when you're saying message too that I thought was really big was the word root, and like they're trying to find what the one thing is that made them, gay.
Yeah.
And that was like a whole big thing. And they were like angry that you couldn't remember. So then people just started saying anything they could think of that may have contributed in some way, as if that was a thing. Like if rooting was a thing, they had to identify it. And I think I would imagine that they did some not serious, but some research into what words and things are used. I wonder if that word is used. I don't personally know. But to me, that was interesting too, because people were just being ridiculed for that, even for trying to figure out and like not being able to tell.
Well, that's just the medical term, right? Like the root cause of it all. Like
is that what it meant? Okay. I mean, I get rooted, but I didn't know if that's okay.
Yeah, like what's the root cause, right? It's somewhat scientific.
I do remember a scene where that lady that ran the house had like a big F word in the board. Something you rhymes with maggot.
Oh.
That was her root.
Bob Saget.
They were doing things like that woman specifically. She would say things that were like, we don't use profanity here, and we don't use like double negatives and things like that. And it was like trying to associate it with something negative, as much as you could. They were trying to associate it at, really using words to do that and saying how like this is bad, just like this is bad. They were trying to think of any way to do that. If I felt like, I think overall, I thought I didn't really have any points where I was like, I didn't think there was bad vibes at all for me. It wasn't long. It was only like an hour and 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, short movie.
So, which is smart. Like that's, you know what I mean? If they did go an hour and 45, maybe it wouldn't have been as good.
I am happy with that it wasn't a quick. I thought I was gonna be like when they're about to confess and get kicked out or whatever. I was like, oh, this is gonna be lovey-dovey. They're gonna walk out together, and then it was the opposite, right? I thought that was a nice little thing. Like, she had snitched out the first time, and then this time she's like, I'm gonna stand up for what I think, and she gets, duped, or it's her the character that's stronger ends up being the one that decides to step. Oh, I even know that was that. I think I even had a classmate in college that like the parents were like paying for his college and all that if he was straight, basically. Like basically some of the parents of the characters, like we're gonna cut you out of the will or whatever unless you get this right. And I went to school with someone that was like had to like pretend to be straight, or else they would, they were gonna take him out of school. And so I just remember that. It's very real.
Very real. Yeah, I feel like I definitely had not that my parents had any will and testaments for me, we're poor, but we definitely had conversations where they were insinuating that if I were gay, especially before I turned 18, that would imply some level of disconnect between me and my family. And I was born in 92. This film was in 99. So I feel like,
Wait, you're gay, Raymond?
yeah, unfortunately. I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, that was like, I think a lot of people in our generation definitely still had a lot of the same similar situations as these folks did. At least in my friendship circle, growing up in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Oh, and also I was Googling because now I am curious about the character's name is Jan. So Screen Rant did this article called "Recasting But I'm a Cheerleader If It Were Made Today." It came out in 2021, and they said the character Jan has one of the most interesting storylines in But I'm a Cheerleader. Jan is clearly coded as a transgender male rather than a lesbian woman, as the character's monologue about not being like the rest of the camp's participants and the character design suggests. And then it just goes on to say that if the film were made today, Jan would undoubtedly be canonically, I'll probably say that wrong, but
You
trans.
said canonically,
Can-
like canon.
How do you say that?
I think
No, but
canonic-
anyway, go on.
Canonically? Canonically?
you know,
Canonic?
what's the word? Vernacular is purely um, an imperialistic. What's the word?
Ruse.
Exactly. We don't need no grammar. We don't need no.
Canonically. We'll go with canonically. Transmasculine instead of the identity being heavily implied. So I think to what y'all were saying, the film does treat Jan as a lesbian woman, but implies a transgender or transmasculine person.
But wait, isn't sorry? And again, I watched this. What was it, last week? And I was still under the evil hand of the COVID, so maybe I'm a little foggy on it. Was she? She wasn't even lesbian, right? Like she liked guys. She just had that appearance, right? And had kind of the mustachy thing. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they treated her as a lesbian, but she was straight, right? She was that part of her monologue that she was.
Yeah. The monologue suggested that she was straight because she did love, or she was attracted to men.
I did hear, and I quote, that he liked dick.
He or she? Who are we?
Well, I think to what Screen Rant is suggesting is that with the language we have now, we could presume that this character would be a trans man.
Got it. Yes, we're all saying the same thing, but we all have a different decade's vocabulary knowledge.
Anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Next point of order.
Did you notice in one of the scenes it said rehabber and it had all their names listed?
Yes.
Like they went straight rehab, like the 5 steps of.
On their board.
Yeah, on the board, and it literally said like rehabber, like they were clearly going for it,
Yeah.
Like how ridiculous it is.
Well, unless anyone has anything else to add, I was going to move on to final thoughts.
Let's do it.
Who would like to go first?
I'll go really quick, so then I'll be quiet. First off, yeah, I really enjoyed the film. I probably would watch this again. If it were to come up at some point, I would definitely watch it. I would recommend it to a lot of my friends. People, it's crazy that Natasha this came out in '99. American Pie also came out in '99. the whatever Detroit City also came out in '99. So she was busy that year. But yeah, I enjoyed the film. What I want to see or hear, since if you did some research for this, Raymond, is how is this not a musical already? Like, that's all I could think of watching this was just like you have the big pink and blue sets and the outfits with the logo and everything, and then you have like I love that like the anarchists are just the openly gay guys and yeah. So I'm just like this would be great for a musical. And what really the creme de la creme, the cherry on top, was that stupid damn cheer she did at the end of just like that's the moment in what is it? It's gotta be you or whatever. John Cusack
Say anything.
with
Say anything.
yeah. Say anything like with a boombox, but this one is her like I know I'll do my cheer. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like I was expecting like a big old like cheerleading whatever, and I was like, man, she killed it with just like doing like the minimal amount of, and then they shoot at them, right? Am I crazy? Did they get shot at, or is that just my COVID remembering?
I don't think they got shot at.
They didn't get shot out. All right. Either way, the I definitely
say anything.
I really gotta
Don't
rewatch
forget
it now.
to take your vitamin C, folks.
No,
you know,
they threw stuff at them, right? They threw rocks at them, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, point being, I enjoyed the movie. I would recommend it to everyone and anyone that I see in the street. I will rewatch it, and I'll wait for Raymond to write a musical about it.
Tony.
I in one of the IMDb trivia things, it does say that somewhere did turn it into a musical, but I don't think it's gone to the level that this film has in potential.
It's probably some sad off-Broadway black theater thing. Or black box theater is what I meant to say. Black box. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Final thoughts. Again, not the movie I was expecting at all whatsoever. It was a fun ride. Definitely a movie I will watch with other people. I watched it by myself. And yeah, surprisingly, it holds up being released in 1999, which I'm sure was made, I guess, a year prior. So yeah, I would recommend. Thank you, Raymond.
Yeah, for me, the movie had a lot of lines that I would remember. I feel like if I watched it a couple times, there was a bunch of things that like some of the characters said that multiple times, and then even some of the things that they said when they were being kind of serious. When what is her name? Clea DuVall, is that it?
That's how I've been saying it, but I could be wrong.
She like talks about her root, and she's like, my mother got married in pants, like things like that. I was like, there's a lot of funny lines in this movie, and I think people would be using them a lot if more people saw it. Definitely think it'd be a good movie to watch with a group of people. I did watch it by myself. I definitely feel like it's the kind of movie where, you know, like somebody older in your family who's not, you know, as open. Be fun to watch them squirm while watching this movie because there's plenty of those moments that are intentionally in there. And I would love that. But in the end, for me, I do agree. I think it definitely has held up over time.
Okay, I'll go. I'm a bit of a prude, and like I said earlier, camp, it either goes one way or the other with me. Not my favorite movie. It's still a good movie. And now I will transition my final thoughts into what I know what Michaela probably would have said. She would have said that I'm fucking wrong, uncultured, and a swine. She absolutely loved the screenwriting in this movie. She loved the look of it. She thought that a lot of the visual foreshadowing was very clever, and she, especially the use of colors. I think like the very intimate scenes that we in the movie, she was like, that was just absolute art. It's beautiful, and she hated herself for not knowing that this movie existed. So I'm sure she also would have thanked you, Raymond, for introducing this to the club. And then she would have packed her bag. No, not her bag. She would have packed my bags and told me to get the fuck out.
I think she'd be proud of you. I enjoyed it, but I do think to what everyone's saying about watching this with the group, I kind of wish I had the opportunity to watch it with somebody because it is so campy, and I think watching such a silly and kind of heightened and stylized film alone, I'm just like, but with someone else there, commenting back and forth, I think I just had such a much more of a lively and fun experience. So my final thought is, I do think y'all should watch this. I feel like it is a precursor to a lot of our modern day, like campy queer films and non-queer films that are camp. This feels like an ancestor in some ways, and if you do, you should watch it with a group because it'll be that much more of an experience. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll kick it over to Steve.
What's up?
What's on the agenda for
Steve, what do we have next week?
Next week. That's why you asked, Chris, because it's your turn in Cinema Club.
So I want to do a choice. So I thought we'd pick between two movies that are very, very similar. The first one is the 1968 classic, The Lion in Winter, with Anthony Hopkins, Peter O'Toole. Oh, that's the new one.
Oh,
there's a previous version. That's like a remake of it.
That's a Hallmark movie. That's what it said on the top. The remake is a Hallmark movie. Hallmark could afford.
The original is definitely not a. It has Katharine Hepburn.
That was giving Fabio.
Was that Professor X on there?
So the 1968 version.
Yes, the original. Or we can watch that one if you guys want. Or the 1985 classic dark comedy Clue.
Ooh.
Well, have we not seen this one yet?
No.
Oh, okay. Let's go. Okay.
Wait. Okay.
So number one. Number two.
That's like the first time I've ever seen Patrick Stewart with hair.
I know, right?
Oh yeah, that's why it looks wrong.
My
All right.
It's gonna kill you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You guys ready? You want to count us down?
Did I do like a
Rocky
3, 2,
Rock?
1? 3, 2,
Okay.
1? I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Ooh, I can't see JP. So are we going with 2?
No, it is a
JP.
tie
Oh, it's a tie.
because JP
one
on his name.
Oh, so you got to break the tie.
We gotta break the tie.
Flip a coin.
I don't have a coin. Does anybody have a coin on them? Who has coins nowadays?
I do. Heads or tails? Heads is Clue.
All right, heads is Clue.
Oh no.
I like how the two sick people in this cast are the ones flipping coins.
I know.
It's the lion and you did it. Oh well, it's a tie.
No, I did it. I was just showing off my Paraguayan coin.
Okay.
But
yeah, it's the lion in winter, 1960.
8. Yeah. So the version is Peter O'Toole, young Anthony Hopkins, Katharine Hepburn. It's basically, I don't want to tell you anything. It's definitely different.
Wait, so that one won?
Yeah.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
The Lion in Winter.
Look at that hair, man. Ugh.
I still
I can't even imagine.
For a second, I was like,
guys.
oh, 1968. Yeah, he probably had hair back then.
For
Patrick
Don
Stewart.
Dino, Chris, Ray Marto Perez, Mr. TV, and JP. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.